What is up, DCS crew and wet shavers? It's Carlos back at it again today. It's going to be a different video than what I usually do with both knives and shaving. In this particular case, I'm going to do a DIY video. I found that I've been searching the net and, I found a bunch of knots for brushes that I've liked from, like, as an example, these are from AP Shave Co. and some handles that I like a lot, such as this one from Some Making Required and this one from Wild West Brushworks. So what I've wanted to do is buy the knots and the handles separately and have them installed here myself using epoxy. So I've got a couple of things here. We're gonna go ahead and roll the intro, talk about what I have here and how to install not only a knot, but how to raise the loft on a knot so that you can go ahead and get either more or less backbone, adjust the floppiness, that sort of thing, and get the right height for your shave experience. So stay tuned and we're gonna get right at it. Welcome back. Now, like I said before during the intro, we've got a couple of things that I just wanted to go ahead and show you. This is just your standard 3/16 punch. I happen to have this particular metal punch around. I would also like to say that if you're not going to use gloves, make sure that you have some type of, napkins around. I keep these for obvious reasons, because with epoxy, it's very easy to be able to go ahead and mess up, and this stuff sets really, really quickly. Now, speaking of which, as an homage to the girl who ended up using this as hair gel, I went ahead and I picked up some Gorilla Glue. This is the epoxy. This is the clear version that sets in 5 minutes. You can buy it on Amazon, and this one has, I think, 3,300 PSI or something like that. And it comes with, obviously it has this set together so that you can go ahead and apply both. Now, as a tip, what I'm going to recommend, and this is something that I did, I actually took my Leatherman Micro and I used the scissors portion and I cut this part off completely. You can see there, it's a little bit easier. So it allows you to be able to go ahead and handle each particular, nozzle out individually, because there's air in one and then there's air in the other at the beginning, and what you want to do is you want to get all the air out, and sometimes there's a little bit more in one than the other. It allows you to be able to create some uniformity, okay? And you're going to see why in a little bit. So I do have that. Once the epoxy is applied inside of the knot, I just use this. I hold the knot and I use this to go ahead and mix the epoxy inside of the knot, and then I can go ahead and set the handle, and then I can go ahead and I can set the knot inside the handle. So for this one, as an example, I'm going to be installing this cashmere knot. This is a 26 millimeter AP Shave Co. cashmere knot inside of this handle from Some Making Required. And this is basically what it's going to look like when it's done. I wanted it to be just a little bit higher, so it has a little bit less backbone. And for that, I'm going to be using these zinc-plated washers, okay, that I picked up from Home Depot. You can get a bag for very, very cheap. This, by the way, this is the little wooden piece that they give with the epoxy to go ahead and mix. I don't really use that, but I figured I'd leave it around just in case you don't have something like this. You can definitely use this. I picked these up, and the way that I measured these aren't exact, as you can see, but they will set very easily. You can use, other things. You can use coins, like, for example, you can use pennies, you can use nickels, anything up to probably a quarter will fit in there. But this is just a little bit smaller. I want to say it's about a nickel sized, so just so you can see. And then the good thing about this is that you can get a couple, depending on how low it's been bored in. You can actually get a couple and stack them. Okay, and the circumference is big enough, at least on these, to where it's not going to create some uneven edges. You can actually use the epoxy, glue those in first, and then go ahead and place the knot above it and create a higher set knot. Now, the thing is with this, if it's too high, it's going to be way too floppy. Okay, and if you like a softer feel in your face, this is great. But for people who like to really agitate their lather and use harder soaps, it's better to go ahead and keep it at a lower set point. So that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm actually just gonna use one in this particular case. I have another knot where I've used two, but that's the case for this one. It's just gonna be one. Now, I am not gonna use one for this particular setup. This is from Derek Wheeler's Wild West Brushworks, and they are out of Arizona. This is also an AP shape cone knot. This is a Badger style synthetic knot. It looks like a 2-band synthetic. Really, really cool. I mean, at first glance, honestly, you can see it and you say, okay, that's a Badger knot, but it really isn't. It's a synthetic. So because of the fact that he does not bore his shave handles, as you can see there, as deep as, say, you know, some making required, or maybe even TDR, which is that darn Robert Chisel Hound, and Grizzly Bay, I really don't need one, because obviously I just go ahead and place the knot in there and it sets very nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this one, and then we'll get to this one afterwards. Okay, so stay tuned and we'll go ahead and get started with this guy. Alrighty guys, back at it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to the side over here, and then I'm going to set this knot right up here, put this here in the middle so you can see it nice and clearly. You can see it there from that aerial view, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the Gorilla Glue. I'm going to go ahead and remove the stopper that I have placed there, set it to the side somewhere where I can see it, so I'll use that wooden part. And then now, the epoxy, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and apply one first. So you go ahead and apply the clear. Okay. Then you go ahead and apply. It's going to be slightly yellower, and it's basically going to feel a little bit harder. But you want to get the same amount on both sides. So I keep applying until both of these little stalks are nice and uniform. So just a little bit more. Okay. And that should be about right, okay? So, now that's not a lot just yet. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place this to the side and go ahead and get started with taking my, my punch and just start turning it and 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 turning it to make sure that there's a nice bond between the two, okay? The longer you're turning it, you go ahead and get some on the walls itself. Not too high, but you do want to get some on there. I'll go ahead and show that a little bit better. There. I wish I had a light so I can go ahead and show this a little bit easier. Yeah, let me see if this works. Okay. So now that that's done, okay, you will notice that you'll get some on the sides. That's perfectly fine. And you'll get some on here as well. That's not an issue. And then what you want to do is drop that washer inside. And the good thing about having a washer is because it has a hole, the epoxy is going to get through that hole and up onto the top of the washer. Then it goes ahead and it sets itself pretty quickly. As you can see here, it should be nice and centered. See if I can get a better look here. Center it just a little bit. I believe. There we go. Okay. Now, there's going to be a little bit left. What I like to do with this part, all right, actually I'll just dip it a little bit, is apply some to the knot here. There we go. Just a tiny bit on the sides. It's going to get some on from the sides from here anyways. We don't want to get too much on the sides. And then you're going to take the knot, stick it in. But aside from that, what you want to do is you want to turn it either counterclockwise or clockwise. And you want to get it in there really good to make sure you get a nice even amount of epoxy all around the knot. And you'll know you applied too much epoxy if you start to see it come out of the sides. I don't have any that's coming out of the sides, so that is a good thing. So you do that a couple of times. Check the size, the height, and you want to make sure that it's nice and flat inside so that it doesn't set at an angle or at some odd angle there. And then what you want to do is you want to get it and just set it to the side and wait for it to solidify. You want to give it, they say to give it about 24 hours. Typically, I like to give it at least 2 or 3 days. But in truth, you know, after about 24, 48 hours, if you want to test it out and it works well, then it's all good. So now we're going to try it with one that doesn't have a washer inside of it, okay? And again, I'm going to go ahead and apply it. That's one. A little bit more there. And then on for the second one. Just a little bit more. Okay. All right. There we go. And close this up here. You'll get a moment to be able to do that. You don't have to do this immediately. It's not like you know, quick dry cement is going to dry like immediately, but you do want to get to it fairly quickly and start mixing it. Now for this in particular, I don't know how all the other epoxies are going to set, but this one has kind of a yellowish look to it. So the good thing is, as you are working with it and as it's being applied to the walls, you'll see it go from that clearish color. You'll actually start to see it go, kind of get like a smokier color, I want to say. It's not too much of a difference. Maybe I can show it to you there. It does have more of a jelly-like consistency. And man, this stuff smells. Like, not gonna lie, I'm glad I did this without my girl around because she'll probably think that I farted. All right, so you want to mix it really good. And then once you start to see it really turning like grayish, that's when you know you have a good consistency going. Okay, make sure you get enough on the walls. Take that out. Take what's left on here and apply it to the base of the nut. A little bit on the sides. I mean, bear in mind, the sides are still gonna get coverage, but you know, waste not, want not, right? So, okay, that's done. I'm going to set this back to the side on top of that napkin I showed you at the beginning. And then grab the nut, grab the handle, stick it in there really good. Okay, and then you want to grab it one more time. And you want to twist, twist, twist. Make sure you get nice coverage. So you go clockwise and counterclockwise. All right. And depending on how dense the knot is, you may want to also use something like, say, rubber bands, that sort of thing, to keep the knot from coming out. Because sometimes the density will cause the knot to, you know, to go in. You kind of like force it in with that pressure, you know, because you basically have been holding it in like this to bring it in. And then the density, once it's been released, it'll start to kind of creep itself out, kind of like flowering out. And to keep that from happening, just a quick tip, you got to use something like you know, like a piece of string. You can tie some string around it just to kind of keep the density, you know, uniform, or you can use a rubber band. I have a really dirty rubber band here, but you know, just to kind of make the illustration, you can go ahead and use that as well. And these are good to go. These have been set. I'm gonna go ahead and let these dry for about 2 days. Probably, you know, take them for a ride on the weekend, see how they work. First thing I like to do with these to keep them, you know, just to kind of test them out. I don't shave immediately with them. What I typically like to do is I like to bowl lather with them. I have some, you know, shave bowls specifically made for shaving. So, and they have ridges in it. So I'll apply some soap, and then I'll just kind of like agitate it really well inside of the soap bowl and see how that works, that shave bowl. And then I'll clean them, and then I'll let them sit for another day or two, and then I'll go ahead and, oh, here's one hair. And yeah, after that, it's pretty much good to go. So there you have it, folks. That's how you go ahead and set brushes, not only with just a standard knot onto a handle, but a knot onto the handle with your loft raised using a foreign object like these zinc plated washers. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, feel free to just drop me a message and I'll be more than happy to help out. And also, if for whatever reason you do have the adhesive start to creep up and it gets to the point where it gets messy and it gets into the hairs up here, what you want to do is, if I'm not mistaken, rubbing alcohol should help with that. And if you do have any issues with that, there are a lot of other channels. I think the gentleman that makes wolf whiskers brushes has a tutorial on it. Let me think. Rob from That Darn Rob, or Chisel Hound, has something on it as well. There's a bunch of people that actually have tutorials about it, including Douglas Smythe from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements. They should be able to go ahead and help you out as well. Hopefully this has been helpful. And oh yeah, by the way, what's the knife for this video? This is the Civivi button lock Elementum. Gotta show a knife in the video, right? So that's today's carry. But just remember, guys, whether you carry the Elementum, whether you carry something from We, you know, ZT, Kershaw, Spyderco, or one of the million other companies that are providing quality nuts, just remember, if you EDC, think of DCS. Guys, you've been great. Thanks for tuning in while I go ahead and take care of these 2 knots, and hopefully I will see you next time. In the meantime, peace. Take care.